Tonight on Hoover Junior Week, we are going for it. We are doing a full step-by-step, bit-by-bit, part-by-part, tip by hint, strip down of my Hoover Junior 1334A that has been needing to be done for years, and part of the reason of doing Junior Week is to get things like this finished, started, done. So let us get set up and we shall strip this thing completely apart. Yes, hello my vacuum cleaner chums, how are you today? This is a Hoover Junior. This will apply to all Hoover Juniors. In fact, for this video I'm using the screw guard from a 1354A, which should be absolutely fine. So the first thing we should do is snip the cable tie that I fitted in order to stop the cable from flopping around or falling off. And we shall take the cable off of the machine and then pop it to one side because we need to get ourselves a quite chunky flat blade screwdriver, like so. Then we can undo the middle handle bolt. It's also how you post out Juniors. You take the handle off, much easier. There we go, just a little nut and bolt. Generic standard Hoover nut and bolt, handle nut and bolt. Then the handle will come off and you can slide, there we go, slide that up and down the cable. You can see where it's been. You can also pop it out of the bracket that holds it onto the handle at this point and pop that to one side. Then we shall take the bottom handle bolt out. Again, exactly the same nut and bolt. That can go there and in there. Then the handle itself can be removed, and now I can come a lot closer and we can look at things in more detail. The next thing that I do is take off this bottom piece, and if you're lucky it will twist, but if you're unlucky you take a very slim screwdriver and pop it down, and you're basically trying to flick out these edge bits here, and eventually it'll do it. There's one. There you get it. You give it a twist and it comes off like so. This being clean just stops it from being gritty and binding up. Cord hook is good. I'm not putting this in the wash box because although it's a little bit chipped already, I don't want it to get any worse, so we shall leave it there. Next, I am going to remove this because I want to clean up the little nut and bolt. So again, there is a little tiny circlip on there, which will, you've got to be careful to catch it, just come off very easily, like so. Then you can pull the other part out, and I then put the circlips back on, because they've all got to be this, they're so small. See, I'll just drop that. Oh, I'll do that off camera in a minute. There it is. You get the idea. Then you can push this out, although I'm going to struggle to get a hold of it with this screwdriver. There we go. And that is the spring that springs the bag holder. We can clean that up as well. Marvellous, that's it. The handle grip is okay. If it was loose or twisted, I'd go to take that off as well, but it's not. It is just filthy, so that is fine. Let us, while we are here, move on to the bag, which is quite filthy in itself, and I can put it into soak in a second. Because it's, yeah, I thought it had a bag in it, but it's obviously popped off, or there's a hole in the bellows. So we'll take this bag off, probably a bag that I fitted, so I'm not too worried. Got the little rubber doohickey. And then we need to try and get the bag off of this. Now, unlike other juniors, there is no screw as such. Somewhere in here will be some string. There it is. We shall snap that off and remove it, because this has all got to be cleaned up. And then I don't quite know then how is best to do this. I know, we'll take the bellows off of the actual adapter, and with the bag flange we can remove the little metal insert and then remove the rubber seal. Now this is often overlooked, and as you can see it needs to be cleaned. Just cleaning this seal and improving the join between the body and the bag flange improves things no end. Now, I don't quite know if we pull, push, whatever, this seems to be working. With the bag off of the bag fill tube, we can basically wash it, because this is all there is. Now it's not in the best condition, but it will certainly be okay. It's just filthy. You also can't really take this out, but that's fine. You cannot be too rough washing this anyway. Then all that remains is to pop the bellows off and check that there's no cracks, and B, if you do this, look, I can see gunk raining out. That this is going to make cleaning it a lot easier. So there we go, we have a good set of bellows. Onto the bag fill tube, and this has the sound dampening fabric still in it. I wonder if we can get it out in one piece. This is in quite a few juniors actually, and what it's supposed to do is absorb the sound of the grit as it goes up the bag fill tube, and as you can tell it goes really filthy. So we shall have it out, and actually no, I can see already half of it's missing. I've just scraped it. Yeah, okay, let me get all this out, because we might put some in. This is the adapter plate for it, but it won't be this piece. I have others. So let's get this done, and for that I'm going to use a wider screwdriver, because it's glued on and you've just got to scrape it off. If you're careful and this bit isn't already half missing, you can remove it very complete and then wash it and put it back. If we do put it back, it'll be with another piece that I have from another machine anyway. So we'll take the remains out. That's all that was left anyway, so it's no big loss. And to be honest, if you don't put them back, you can't really tell. Just get the remains of it out from up here. And then this can go in the wash box. And we can start with what everybody really is waiting for, the actual machine itself. And first we shall start with this beautiful MK plug, which is definitely going back onto this machine. It's got a little chip missing out of it, but quite honestly it is okay. Now you've got to be a bit careful with MK plugs that the fibre cord grip doesn't strip its threads, because then it's a pain and the plug's never really that safe again. So we'll remove the cord grips completely. And I won't strip the plug down now, I'll do that off camera, although we can have a look and see. Ooh, it's the original cable, alright. Red and black Terminator wires. Wires. There we go. And then what I do with MK plugs is take off the screw terminals and actually strip them down even more. You can take the pins out to give them a proper clean, but I'll do that off of camera. We'll move on and take the belt guard off and undo the screw that holds the clip into place. And we now need our screw card because that is our first screw. We'll then pop the belt off. Thank goodness it has a belt because I don't have many spares. Then we'll pop the furniture guard off and move on to needing a crosshead screwdriver to remove the wiring cover, and there's a screw and a star washer under here. So we'll take that bottom cover, there we go, do the other one. With its star washer, come on. Ah, I dropped it. Oh, we'll take the cover off and then I'll just tip it out. There it is. And tip it out, and you can have a look at the motor for just a couple of seconds. Now the problem with Hoover Juniors is the spark arrestor thing, and as you can see it just perishes. I never refit them. I know others don't, and there has never been any issues. Of course it is up to you should you wish to do it or not, but I shall scrape off the worst of it and put it to one side, and yeah, we can have a look at the magnificence of our motor and start to undo stuff. And we'll start with the cable, the mains cable to be precise. 2 little brass screws and off it comes. Then pull it through and undo the cord clamp that sits up here and remove the cable completely. With all of that out of the way, we can remove the rear wheels, which are held in by these 2 screws here. And they come off like so. The retaining bracket will probably come off as well. Next you need to remove the 2 circlips holding the wheel on. And once you find the edges in amongst all of the crud. Oh, hello, where's the edges of this circlip? Ah, it's all rubbished up. There it is. You can push it and very carefully remove it like so, and then the wheel comes off along with its washer. And then at the back there is another type of circlip which you don't need to bother removing, but it is a lot easier. So the wheel can go there, and we'll do the same with the other side, and then pop our circlips and washers back onto the bar and put those in the box. Next we actually need to turn the thing over and remove this screw here holding on the foot pedal for the recline mechanism. And then you can even go one step further, and if you loosen it and then get some pliers and very carefully pull so you don't chew it up, you can take the rubber pad off the pedal like so. Then we can come back to here take out the other two screws, which hold the handle bale to the to the machine itself. One there and one here. The whole machine will drop now because that was the only thing holding it. Then you can pull the handle bale out completely from the machine. Onto the handle bale now, and on this older model it is a socket, and an 11mm seems just a bit too tight. 12mm is a bit too loose. Obviously it'll be in old money, but it's not going to be under too much pressure anyway. It's just got to be cracked off. On the newer ones, this is a circlip anyway. In fact, I've just had to refill after I've got my socket set out. So we'll undo that, which then lets this locating plate come out. Then you might need to give it a sharp tap with the back of a screwdriver. I've just seen a washer there. We've got to try and knock this loose. There goes our little washer. There we go. If you want to release even more tension, you get the spring off of its stop. Like so. Then we can withdraw the rod, handle bale shell, and the inner spring. Now there's this bit here. And we have another little circlip. Like so. Then this pulls out, and that pulls out, and there is our handle bale fully stripped. Now this handle bale is in excellent condition. The steps are very pronounced. These wear, and that's what makes the handle bale not work. That is a good handle bale. Right, let's move on to the next step, which is probably going to be taking the front wheels off. Now, there are two screws holding them on. You've got to work around the height adjustment spring. The wheel adjustment didn't come until later on in its lifespan. As you can see, crud always collects behind there. And much like everything else so far, we need to pull off bits of thread and fibre, find the edge of our C-clip and pop it off and try not to lose it. Then the wheel comes off with its washer. There it is, not too bad but filthy. Look at that. Then there is one of these other types of washers, the bigger kind. Oh, this bit's fallen off anyway, we'll get rid of that. This spring just pushes off, and then exactly the same on the other side with the other wheel. Oh dear. Oh, I think we've lost that. So I'll have to find that later. That bounced. I heard it hit the desk. Not horrific for me, because I have lots of spare circlips, but obviously if that just happened to you, you're in trouble. Be very careful with your circlips. But with that all off, we can get rid of that, and all of this can go into the wash. In fact, yeah, well, while we're up here, because I'll do this next anyway, we shall take out the Brushroll. And get it apart. Now this will be a fairly recent belt. Obviously I know the history of this machine, so I'm going to keep that because that's fine. Brushroll spins, I suppose. We shall undo the ends and see which one comes off first. Oh no. Oh dear folks. This isn't great. The end cap has broken. Oh dear. Can it? Hopefully it'll break. Clean off. And I can just put a new end cap on it. That's really the best hope in this situation. Oh bother. Let me figure this out because this is going to be booted. Aha! Eventually I bent it enough that it holds whilst I undo. There we go. So that is rubbish. We need a new Brushroll end cap, although I don't seem to have destroyed anything else too much. Now we get the hammer. And a couple of sharp taps release all of the dust from the end cap. Ha! What is left of the bearing bush, and then a couple more should somehow, I don't care, release the rod from there. Now with a very thin screwdriver you can start to make a gap in the end cap and it should just pull off like so. All good. The Brushroll bearing fell out. That is knackered anyway. And then in here is the anti-vibration washer, which will be thick with grease. And we can slide out our brush strips, which are they genuine Hoover? Oh no, they're not. ABC England. They're also not terribly long either. I shall see if I have any better ones at some point. I think that's also ABC England. Yeah, so it's had new brush strips. There is the Brushroll shell, ready to go for washing. And I'll wash these up because if I can't find any better, they are okay anyway. This actually goes in degreaser first. They do, because they are very gacky and will just knacker up my brush when I wash them. Now we need to grip the rod and hope to goodness that this other one isn't seized. Oh, it's not. Good. So we have one end cap. That is okay. Pick off all of that. Go in the wash. Pull the rod out. Oh no, it is coming off. Lucky. So there we go. There's our other Brushroll bearing. Our other cap. We shall remove this dust. Take this washer out and I'll pop it in there just so it's loose, because I need the motor bearings as well. And there we have our Brushroll stripped off. This thing has been leaking grease for a while. The next thing that I will take out is this, which just pops out with a little bit of force and then comes off of the little spring. And now we seem to be dangerously close to being able to get the motor out. We just need to remove these two screws for the switch. Oh, we'll get the switch cap out in a minute. And this is why you need a long screwdriver, because these screws are buried, and in fact I can't quite even see this one. Hang on, because the flipping suppressor is in the way. Cool. If I look at it from down there I can see it. You won't, but I'm on the screw, so we'll take that out. Other side is similarly difficult, although you can see it at least. And then obviously the top two are nice and easy jobs. Bop them out. Oh, this has been a part before because the heads of the screws are a bit chewed up. Now I don't know if they're all the way out. They're not. They're quite long screws. That one's out. It'll be you. No, you're out as well. There we go. And we have the base to our cord grip as well. That should sit right on there like that. So I'll put that in there. Here is our switch cap. Sometimes these stick on to there. This one sort of does. But there we are. This is our inner shell. Now I always try and go one step further, especially with older machines like this. And we are first going to remove the firewall, which is held in place with its own 3 screws. Now this is by no means a mandatory thing to do. I'm doing it now because I want to do it properly, and it does make a difference. Let's stop spinning. I need you to stay there. It does make a difference, but equally, if you didn't do it, it wouldn't be the end of the world. What you have to do, very carefully, with a flat face screwdriver, is pry. This is quite loose already. Off the firewall, it is stuck on, and eventually, you'll hear it crack a little bit. It should be alright. It's gone. It's now just... Aha! Oh, caught my finger. Oh. We can take out the entire firewall and air duct assembly, which will give us... Oh, there's something written on my Hoover. Obviously gives us a lot more access indeed. Look at that. And in fact, we're going to go the last step further, because then I can cool the shell down, and that is to very gingerly, because otherwise you'll crack the hood, push the cord grommet through and off. Come on. Ah, there we go. Then we can take out our Brushroll pegs, springs, I suppose, just because you can flush all the grit out of the hole then. I think that's it. I think that is everything that we need to take off of this shell. Ugh, legs are going to sleep. Onto the air duct now, which isn't particularly difficult. It is again 3 screws. It's odd seeing a metal air duct. I haven't done many of these older cleaners for years. Ah, it's also got 1 less screw. So there we go. That comes off. As you can see, they're not sealed, and I think that is a terrible oversight. They were sealed on the later ones. 1346A that I literally did yesterday was sealed. So we shall be improving that as well in the future. I'm actually going to take the hood back out and put it over here again so I don't drop something on it and smash it. I suppose this is the interesting bit, isn't it? This is probably the bit that most of you have been waiting for me to get to. The wiring. First thing that we is going to do is actually not snip any wires yet. We'll start undoing them, because it will be desuppressed, but equally you need to keep a little bit of the wire because you can use it to your advantage. So for now we'll just rip all the wires out, don't care what's where, because it all gets changed and you end up with a lot less rubbish lying around the motor. Ah. But equally, yeah, the cables could be quite handy, so we'll keep that. Take off this top one, which also releases the carbon brushes. Now, we've seen the carbon brushes in this machine before. This was the main reason why it didn't work, and again that one's stuck again already, but it was the bottom carbon brush that did it. That was it. We have had it apart, haven't we? Because I had to unstick the carbon brush at the bottom. It's all told you literally how long it's been since I've acknowledged this machine at all. Come on, get it. Ah, there we go. So that is the suppressor unwired. This is one of the exploding types, the ones that really do go bang when they go. There is the age-old argument about do you, don't you, with these. So you get quite heated. But I always take them out. You need to keep these screws though, because they also hold the coil in. So look, this is very handy as a rubbish bag for the job. So that's all off, that's all off. We'll finish taking the switch off, because that's just our last screw anyway. And that's our switch, which is again going to look very different by the end, and we're not going to need this little red band anymore. See you later on, Mr. Switch. Now is the exciting part where we can undo our motor screws little captive nuts underneath, so you don't need to worry about holding them. Last one here at the back. He says, with it slipping. Ah, uh-oh. Ooh, are you a bit worn? Do we need to replace you? I think we might have found our first screw that needs replacing. But then again, it's just undone fine. And you should then have 3 little nuts and bolts. Come on, there's the third one. There you are. For your motor housing. Once that's off, remove the seal. And half of it will lift off, feeding, got to feed the cable through the little hole. And that's the inside of the motor case. You'll see all of the old gunk from bearings previous. Oh, wow, this is rare. Hang on. There is a little rubber seal here which seems to be intact. No, it's stuck. No, these are so rare because they just don't last. And I normally end up just using silicone sealant, which isn't lovely. And if I can save this. Oh. Very delicate piece of rubber, which if it isn't refitted, fills the motor housing with dust after many years, but it still does. There we go. Our terminal falls out as well, and here is the innards. Oh yes, the coil's loose, that's why. It shouldn't make that horrible sound. There is the innards of our motor. And we can start taking it apart, really. The first thing that I'll take out are these 2 screws, which hold the carbon brushes in, and then there we go. Look, we can remove our carbon brush, which is a genuine Hoover. You can just about see the stamping on it, so that's nice to see at least. I think that's everything genuine on this machine. There's one more thing we can look at to be absolutely sure. Right, we'll remove the other little clip and then we'll leave it in and crack off the bottom screw. And this is where we've been before. We got this far. Fab, and it all falls out. And that's fine because none of this is really to be washed. Right there, those 2 screws I'll card up in a minute. Then under here we can dig out the front bearing screws. Where's my longer screwdriver? I can't really show you them either because the fan's in the way. Buried under centuries of dirt. And the front bearing clamp comes off, back out with a crosshead screwdriver to release this screw that holds the back bearing clamp, and all of the other rubbish will come off of there as well. We don't want any of that. All we really need is to keep one nut to go back on. The rest can all go in the bin. And on the back side we have another screw which comes off, and then the whole thing lifts out of the motor housing. And again, lots more decrepit old dust. This one's not too bad. I've seen a lot worse. Oof. So now I'm going to wash both of those rear bearing holders because they are filthy. The coil slides off now, and all I really do with this is give it just to brush off. There's not really a lot else you can do with it because you can't wash it, obviously. It's pointless polishing it, you can't see it. When the machine's back together, you can see the vent holder where all the greasy dust has been. Now we have this. This is the rear bearing. It has a sleeve in it, and again, this is where if it rocks about you can feel it on there. Now to take the fan off, this is the easiest way to take the fan off, because you can just hold it and the spindle and you've got a really good grip. This is, I don't quite know any other way to do it. This is how I always do it. So there is the belt spindle. We then have, we have 2 fibre washers on this one and 1 metal. This varies from era to era. Aha, the bearing came straight off. Doesn't seem to have the Hoover roundel on it, but equally I don't know if it's been replaced. And that's the motor, fully apart. This and this will join the, wherever they are, Brushroll end caps in a bath of something nasty, basically. Fan can be washed, spindle can go in there, all of these can go in there, motor can go in there, and do you know what? We are done, folks. So, 1 Hoover Junior completely taken apart. Stay tuned, because the next thing that we need to do is put it back together. So the next time you see this, it will be laid out on the floor, ready to go for a big reassembly marathon. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. Stay tuned for some other Junior stuff that I shall put in between this. And I will see you soon. Bye bye.